Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and this is the 110th Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. It feels like just yesterday that we were at 100. The relentless march of time. Okay, before we get started, I want to say a big thank you and welcome to our newest patron, Daniel. Everybody say hi. Wait, this isn't live? Thank you so much for your support, Daniel. I appreciate it. If you want to be awesome like Daniel and see videos early, as well as access to a patron-only channel on Discord, and the ability to ask questions in your own voice, there's a link to Patreon in the description below. Thank you very much, Daniel. Hell yeah. A bit more before I get to the questions, I figured I should quickly mention if you have Byte, which is like a new version of Vine I guess, feel free to add me there, at Herbert_Erpaderp. There's a bunch of clips on there from my recent visit to Tank Ride, along with a bunch of other stuff. You might also get to see some stuff that'll be in videos a bit early. Okay, let's answer some questions. Trekan Beluvic said, if you could get a cancelled TV show back onto the screen, which would it be? My immediate thought is Firefly. That was a pretty good show and I would love to have seen more. I mean, there was a movie, but more series. Also Star Trek Enterprise. Sure, it started off a bit weak, but I mean, most of them do. By the end of it though, I was pretty into it. It could have been a really great show. I can't really think of anything else, though I don't watch a lot of TV, so that might be why. Garrus909 said, I know you love to rank things, so what is your worst, best and worst experience in a video game? I'm not quite sure I get the wording here, but my worst video game experience is always going to be when it doesn't work properly. I can't think of anything specific, but in my experience, the worst experience is when the game is so janky it just doesn't work. I guess a minor example is the random freezing I've been getting in World of Tanks from time to time. If I'm not enjoying the actual game, I just stop. But if I want to play the game and it just refuses to cooperate, that's really irritating. I don't think I really have a particular best experience either. Maybe some of the raids we've done in Rust? Maybe the times where we were playing as landowners from our mighty castle and evicting people from our lands, leaving signs that said that they'd been evicted and such. Good times. I would say that pretty much all of my best experiences are from playing games like PUBG, Rust or 7 Days to Die with Barnaby and my other friends. We have a bunch of in-jokes that stem from Rust that you might hear on streams from time to time, like Danny being a PvP god and the phrase, "Danny, is that you?" But it's really more the playing with good friends than the game itself. I feel like that's the best experience you can have from a game. At least for me anyway. A duck drinking cough syrup said, you and a snail both get immortality and invincibility. You get 69, 420, lots and lots of zeros. The snail always knows where you are and is super smart, even smarter than the smartest person in the world. The snail will escape basically all containers you put it in because it is smart. If the snail touches you, you instantly die. If you touch the snail, you die. How do you escape? I'm confused. If I'm immortal and invincible and the snail is the same, how can I die if it touches me? I guess if I'm invincible to everything except the snail, that's a bit different. The smart thing would be to transfer that money somewhere where it would be useful, since that's probably actually more money than exists in the world, as well as being a very nice number, there's a lot that could be done with that money. I'm assuming that I could transfer it while moving away from the snail, because it probably isn't very quick, and I would want that money to go towards feeding the world, disease research, and space exploration. Once that's disposed of, I guess it doesn't really matter if I die. You said basically all containers, not definitely all, so I wonder if the snail could escape a steel box that's been totally welded shut. If it can't, I would try to have that done. Otherwise, I guess just keep moving. I would use some of that money to have some awesome vehicles to facilitate that. Then, when I get bored, I can just go and touch the snail. Monol said, do you prefer painting single colour paint jobs or camouflage patterns? Additionally, for wargaming models, do you prefer a realistic look or a look that stands out more but is less realistic, regarding paint jobs? I don't really have a preference. Camo and single colours can both look really cool. Obviously a single colour paint job is going to be a bit easier and quicker, but it really comes down to what's going to look cooler on the model, or what I feel like the model needs. I mean, it's less common to see something like a T-34 in a camo scheme, and while you can definitely do them in camo, a T-34 looks most T-34-ish in plain green, if that makes sense. For wargaming models, I like to try and get something that's halfway between a realistic look and one that stands out. I don't really like doing things like extreme modulation and the really stark highlights that you might see on a gaming model, but I do add highlights, and I try to make certain things stand out a bit more than you might do with a very realistic paint job. I like to try and get things somewhere in between. That way they look somewhat convincing on the table, but don't take billions of years to finish. Digital Rocket said, "Is there something within the modelling hobby that you wish you were able to do more of, but can't due to difficulty, monetary or time investment?" The big ones are time and money. I don't want to spend all of my time modelling. I mean, there is a lot of variety to modelling, but it would still drive me insane if all of my time was spent doing that. But I do wish that I had more time that I could dedicate towards modelling activities. Or rather, I wish I didn't have to do things that I don't want to do that take up too much time, like sleeping, various appointments, going shopping, etc. If money was no issue, there are so many kits that I would just buy. I've already got a pretty decent stash. I mean, it's not extravagant by any means, but it's decent enough. And it might actually be a bit frustrating to have so many kits and never get them all built, but it would be cool. Also, if I had the money, I would like to do things like funding a plastic AC-1 Sentinel for wargaming, and maybe a scale model one as well, though I suspect one already exists. If I could fund a really high quality one and have it readily available, that would be great. I would also do some other less common subjects because that would just be awesome. Trekan Beluvic said, "Did it ever happen to you that you did an impulse buying of a model kit at the hobby shop and when you came home, you realised that you had already got this kit?" It hasn't happened to me, not yet anyway. I'm sure one day it will, though my stash isn't really that big, so it's not super likely. That said, I am very forgetful, so it is bound to happen eventually. I did actually order some wargaming models the other day and had to check my videos to see if I'd already built that kit, but it turns out that I hadn't, I just imagined it. If I did accidentally double up on something, I would just give the second one away on stream or something, assuming that I didn't want to keep it. Major General Bunk said, "Do you think Hitler would fuck you for a chocolate bar?" I think this is a quote from Fury, right? The question is a bit vague though. Who gets the chocolate bar? Does Hitler care about consent? I suspect maybe he doesn't, and he certainly doesn't have my consent. I'm not especially interested in either chocolate or being fucked by Hitler. I don't think he would be into it either. So I guess the answer is probably not. Jack647 said, "Important question. What is your favourite kind of ice cream?" I don't eat a lot of ice cream, though I do rather like the mint kind with choc chips in it, or just plain vanilla. Like a really good quality vanilla ice cream though, not the cheapo stuff. People might say, "Oh, vanilla's boring," but I think it's nice, especially considering I almost never have ice cream. Smoes said, "Do you think the build quality of DS9 would be higher if the Federation built it?" Yeah, probably, but the station is a plot device, so it would almost definitely break down and have things explode and fail when the story needed it, even if it were meant to be better quality than a Cardassian station. I don't think it would look as cool either. Martin Gotham said, "Do you speak Klingon?" Nope. My notes said to find something entertaining to say in Klingon, but I was lazy and I didn't, plus my throat hurts. So the answer is just a plain old no. Digital Rocket said, "Do you speak my language?" I'm not going to give you a Vegemite sandwich, because Vegemite is awful. The Big Boy said, "Have you heard about Warlord and Airfix's Blood Red Skies? If you have, what are your thoughts? I think it's really cool that they're creating this game together." I have heard of it, but not really a whole lot. In fact, I didn't even realise that Airfix was involved. I saw some of the boxes in a local hobby shop the other day, and I also see them in the occasional emails from Warlord, and I have been tempted to pick some up. It seems like it could be a pretty good game, and I definitely think it's cool to see a game for people who are more into planes than ground vehicles. I am interested in checking out some of the models, but it probably won't be for a while. Garrus909 said, "Do you think me and my son are ready for some sick jumps?" Hell yeah you are. I hope you're happy with these shirts. I think they look pretty good. The Sick Jumps shirt is definitely a better choice for kiddo than the Piss shirt that I've got available. Also, if anybody's interested in getting their own Sick Jumps shirt, there should be a merch thing just below the description, as well as a text link. I know the price might be a little bit high for some, so I don't expect anybody to rush out and buy these, though I do certainly appreciate those who do. I just figure it can't hurt to point these out. In the YouTube comments of last fortnight's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, Yantima said, "Will you do a setup video?" I think I did say I would do one a while ago, but I'm a terrible lazy shit, and obviously haven't. I'm thinking about making some changes to lighting soon, so I think I'll do that once I've sorted that out, or decided against it. SOS Legio Primus said, "Plasmo is so good it's depressing, as is Alex Modeling." I do agree that he's very good, however I feel like saying it's depressing is the wrong way to look at it. Not that I want to tell you how to think, but I prefer to look at it as something of an inspiration. I see people saying that the only person you should compare yourself with is yourself from yesterday, and there is certainly some truth in that. I don't think anybody really has innate talents that they're born with. The reason somebody like Plasmo is so good is because they've spent time practicing and working on their craft. It's the same for pretty much everything. It used to kind of annoy me when I was playing in bands. Even if you're not that good, people will come up to you and say, "Oh, you're so talented, I wish I could do that." But the reality is you only get good because you've spent hours upon hours practicing. These are usually the same people who want your services but don't want to pay you because they've got no idea how much work goes into it. The thing is, everybody grows and improves at their own rate, and of course not everybody has the same aspirations with their modelling, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you want to get results like Plasmo, you've got to work at it for sure. Also, modelling isn't a competition, unless of course you've entered in some sort of competition, obviously, and I think if somebody doing really good work does actually depress you, or cause you to genuinely get upset, I think that's something that you should work on. It seems a bit unhealthy. I mean, that is a lot to get out of a single sentence comment, but these videos are for me to give opinions and waffle on about things if I want. Colin Spears said, "Herbert, you come across as a decent human being with a healthy intolerance for idiots. And thanks to your followers for sharing their builds. Inspiring. Seeing the work people do is really cool, and I'm really glad they share it. I also do try to be a decent human being. I'm definitely not perfect at all, but I do try to learn and be better where I can, and I try to focus on what's important. I'm old, so I've had plenty of time to make mistakes, learn and adapt, but like anybody, there's still room for improvement." EP Art said, "Who is your waifu and/or senpai?" I'm not into anime, so I'm not really sure what the actual meanings of these are, but from what I understand, a waifu is an anime character that people consider their wife or girlfriend or something. I try not to be judgmental, but to be honest, I find that a bit creepy and weird. I'm sure a lot of the time it's just a joke, but there are certainly people with unhealthy obsessions. So I don't have a waifu, don't really watch anime, and prefer real women over cartoons. I think a senpai is somebody that you look up to, but doesn't notice your attempts to communicate or something like that. I don't think I have anybody like that. I mean, there are definitely people I look up to who would probably be a bit too busy to notice me or whatever, but I generally don't try to communicate with them in the first place, if that makes sense. Here's the part where I talk about the Polaco's Modelling School Discord server. It seems there's a bit of upset about my comments last fortnight. This comment from Spinomax says, "This is clearly an attempt to try talk down our server to improve his own. Assigning motives and intentions to somebody you don't even know is a little bit weird, but you're free to think what you like. Though if that were the case, I would do it somewhere else. I would say that probably about 90% of the people who watch these videos are already on my Discord server. I don't think I really need to talk it up for them. Ask a Herbert Erpaderp is a Q&A series primarily for the community. Somebody asked what my opinion on Polacos was and I gave it. I figured that much was clear, though it does seem as though some took it as an unprovoked attack. Maybe pay a little more attention to things before you go getting all butt blasted. This comment from Hopeless Gaming, where I'm told to go fuck myself, is a pretty good example of what I was talking about. Lots of angry folks there, and a lot of personal attacks. Is this the way you respond to criticism? Kind of odd for people who claim to be all about critique and criticism and such, but you do you. Another comment from Spinomax: how about you stop accusing our server of things that are not actually true? There is no homophobia or racism on our server. It isn't tolerated on there. Okay, go to the search box in the upper right corner and type the word gay. You'll get over 600 results, and in most cases it's being used as a pejorative. Obviously not every instance is being shitty because gay is a word that you can just use in conversation. Context matters, but my point still stands. I'm not sure what you would call that other than homophobia being tolerated. From what I can see, there is less racism, to be fair, but it is still there. Not doing anything about it counts as tolerating it. I'm sure you might just pass that off as memes or internet culture, in which case it's probably not really worth talking to you about. The server owner did speak to me, and does actually seem interested in improving that server, and I think that's great. There's always room for growth and improvement, and I wish them the best of luck. I do know that running a server can be a bit of a ball ache at times. At any rate, I feel like I've spoken more about this than I did last fortnight, and it's more than I really care to. In the end, I don't really care what goes on in other people's servers. The admins can determine what is and isn't appropriate there, but I, like anybody, will still form opinions based around what I see. If what you do ends up affecting me, I'll deal with it, but otherwise I'll just keep doing my own thing. I wonder how many angry comments there are going to be after this one. More than likely, I won't respond to them. Here's a new comment on a really old Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. Trekan Beluvic said, Battlefront is watching Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. They heard you wanted some 1/100th scale hetzers in plastic, and abracadabra, in 2020 they will release a plastic hetzer. I like that tank too, so Battlefront can be sure to sell 2 boxes of the hetzer at a minimum. That's pretty glorious. I know they probably aren't really watching, but I will take full credit. I haven't actually seen where they said they would be doing that, and I don't really have the time to do too much digging, but I definitely want some plastic hetzers to hetz with. Also, Battlefront, if you're listening, I would also really like some plastic Centurions, especially the Mark V-1. I know that Rubicon are doing them, but that's in 28mm. I need them in 15mm as well. Thanks, Battlefront. I appreciate it. Seriously though, the idea of plastic hetzers is pretty exciting. I mean, just the idea of hetzers is pretty exciting by itself. Such a fun little vehicle. Speaking of models, let's have a look at a couple of images from the modelling section of the Discord server. As always, I've only picked out a couple of models for time reasons, and if you're not already on my Discord server, there's a link below where you can see all of the models shared, and maybe even share some of your own work. First up, Amateur Hobbyist shared their attempt at painting an NCO in an older uniform for the 2nd SS Panzer Division Infantry. Is it just me, or does this figure have an enormous nose? I think it looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit shiny, though that's not really anything to do with the colours. I'm obviously no expert on the colours, but they look good to me. I do think that gas mask can is a little bit bright. It's almost like a toxic green, which is kind of neat, but I'm not sure it actually fits. Either way, nice work. Keep it up. Cartool shared this work in progress Panther. You would be forgiven for thinking this is in 1/35th scale. With that much extra detail and brass bits, myself and at least one other person on Discord initially thought that it was in 1/35th. It's actually in 1/72nd scale. Very cool. And here's a couple more progress pictures. A lot of the brass in these pictures is a bit less obvious, but it's still there and it still looks really well detailed. I'm pretty interested in seeing how this one progresses. Nice work. Colonel Paul Do Not Even Try Gamma shared this M10. This is an Airfix 1/35th scale model, painted up to represent a vehicle belonging to the 12 IME? I don't know French. It's part of the Regiment de Fusiliers Marines of the French 2nd Armoured Division, and it's really neatly done. It's pretty lightly weathered, which I think is nice. As cool as it is to see models with extreme weathering and damage, I also really enjoy seeing them done as though they've been looked after. Very nicely done. Charging Snail shared this missile boy. My vehicle identification skills are clearly lacking, so I have no idea what this thing is, but it looks awesome. And only just a little bit ridiculous. In the best possible way, of course. Those missiles are huge, and of course the model is quite well done. I like that the missiles look a fair bit cleaner than the rest of the vehicle. Very nice. Graph Pudding shared this 28mm scale Crusader, which comes in a couple of flavours, Mark II, Mark III, or the anti-air version. There's quite a bit of yellow here, it's very deserty, and the models are painted very nicely. It kind of makes me want to paint my own Crusader that I've got around here somewhere. Also, here's a Jeep in the same scale. This is an SAS Jeep, which has quite a few guns on it. Very cool, though probably actually quite hot being in the desert. I bet this could do some sick jumps. Vrokali shared this golden boy. I don't know what this model is specifically called. What matters though is that it looks very cool, and definitely very golden. That gun looks like not only is it good for shooting, but also stabbing and chopping. Very handy. And here's the Custodes kill team that the figure belongs to. They all look like they enjoy doing a little bit of killing here and there. Very nice work. And that's it for the modelling this fortnight, and indeed for the entire Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. Thanks to everybody who shared their models, whether they were shown or not. It's always nice to scroll through all the pictures. And thank you to those who submitted questions. And a very big thank you to Daniel, our newest patron. Your support is very much appreciated. Links to all of my things are in the description below, and as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.